why the scale isn't moving and why it's actually not a massive problem. You know, we can be this guy here, I've been dieting for 3 weeks and the scale hasn't moved. It's not a fat loss problem. That is an understanding problem because this is where most people quit. Like, it's not because fat loss has stopped, it's because they don't understand how fat loss actually works. So we're going to talk about the difference between weight loss and fat loss later in the video, but this is purely fat loss. Deficit today, scale drop tomorrow. It's not how the body works week in, week out. As fat loss, in a lot of cases, while over long term it can look linear, in the short term it's not. The scale is always the lagging indicator. The behaviors are the leading indicators. So you're being in a deficit, doing your steps, doing your cardio, training hard, your choices in nutrition. If you've just focused on the scale, you're focusing on just the wrong thing. But first, let's get into the mechanisms of what fat loss happens. You're in a deficit, so you're eating less. This produces using some stored energy, which is fat, and then fat loss. So fat loss is really fucking boring. It's just your body needs energy. So it just uses fat. Where this fat comes from will determine, you know, what's sort of happening and how your body responds. A lot of people are actually a little bit different where they pull fat from. So we'll get into that as well. So what you want to look at is like how that's sort of broken down. Is you got your fat cell, then you got triglycerides, which is, you know, the fat in your blood, and then this gets broken down into fatty acids here, and this equals energy. So this is how it all sort of breaks down using fat as energy. So really what's happening here, your body is like a bank, and it's actually pulling money out of that savings account that you just do not want to touch. You know, where you don't want to touch is like your hips and areas where you just hold at those spots, your lower back, you know, those really annoying spots is the bank. You know, the mechanism of it is really simple. The execution isn't, because the body doesn't want to lose weight. Its goal is just to survive. It doesn't care if you want to look shredded on a beach or whatever. So let's get into also like why the scale doesn't move. Here's the difference here. We're talking about fat loss here, not weight loss. Weight loss is just you lose everything. You lose muscle, you lose fat, you lose water, you lose shit in your guts, you lose absolutely fucking everything. Whereas fat loss, we want a nice shredded physique here. We want to look like we train. So you can lose fat in a week, but you can still actually weigh the exact sort of same as well, because, you know, body weight is made up of so much stuff like fat, muscle, water, food in your stomach, glycogen, digestion waste. So this is where, you know, potentially your scale can be the same. It's like you've lost body fat, but you've just gone up in water. Say something stressed happened. Maybe you had more sodium in your food. There's so many things that impact the scale. That's why it is one of many things that we want to be tracking when we're doing fat loss, because common reasons that this happens is stress, terrible sleep, cortisol goes up, higher sodium, like I said, more carbohydrates, again, holding more water, longer to digest. Hard training causes inflammation. Your body holds on to that. Hormonal fluctuations, if you're a woman, these things are up and down. You know, when Liana has her period, her weight's everywhere. So being constipated and just general sort of inflammation. So you have to remember here, like I'll just, you know, sip a cup of tea here of knowledge. You didn't gain fat overnight. You gained weight. They're not the same thing. So just quick side note, if you've made it this far in the video, first of all, thank you. And make sure you DM me the word anchor on Instagram. And I've got a little surprise for the guys that actually put up with my nasally annoying voice and my nerdy outputs as far as strength and hypertrophy and dieting and stuff. Anyway, back to it. So yeah, remember, code word anchor on Instagram and you get a little surprise. So we're going to talk about here the lag effect is that, you know, you've got your actions, you've got a delay, which is the scale lagging behind, and then you've got the results. The actions here, me and Liana doing our meal prep, then there's time. And then finally, you know, we are able to do our photo shoot and we look shredded is the main sort of thing. And this takes time. This was about a 24 week process of trying to drop fat. And this causes a lot of people to quit because they stop the deficit, they change calories, add cardio, think they're having a fucking eating disorder or whatever it may take. But your body was just about to respond. It really was just starting to lag. It was going to start to move. You know, the scale makes everyone happy. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it doesn't feel good when the scale drops myself. I'm just telling you the ways that I think about it when it hasn't. I need to think about, okay, did I have a perfect week? Did I do all the things exceptionally consistently? If not, well, there's room there that potentially this is why you're holding on to a little bit of weight. So week 1, week 2, week 3, and finally the scale drops. It's determined by your actions that you do exceptionally consistency. It's not just magic. You need to be focused here. If you really want to develop these physiques that look like they train, Myself and Liana, when we're going through a fat loss phase, we're on it with everything. We're tracking absolutely everything consistently for that time, okay? So why your last diet made you look worse, and this is again the debate between fat loss and weight loss, is most people don't want to lose weight. They actually want to look like they train. And they're different goals and require different prerequisites to getting to that goal. First of all, you probably should have done a 6 month to a year of building muscle, because you can't just lose fat on nothing and look shredded. Well, you can, but you'll just look skinny. So you need to be making sure that, before all this, you actually do some sort of build. Now, what we really want to look for is okay, we want to look like we train. We want to hold size, we want to hold definition. Of course, all of these things can be impacted by a lot of different things. If you're enhanced, if you're not enhanced, still, naturally, you can build a fantastic physique and look really, really good. One thing that you don't want to be carried away with is this scale weight. Oh, I want to be 80 kilos shredded. Maybe, but in most cases, you probably have a lot more weight to lose than you think. So this is person A. They lost 10 kilos and just look smaller, shrunk everything. Person B, myself, I lost 10 kilos and I look more muscular. Why? Because muscle was maintained with training. The signal to build muscle is the same to maintain muscle in a cut. You need to be training at the same level of intensity that you were to build the muscle to maintain it. This is where people drop off because the fatigue kicks in with the deficit. Training feels difficult. You don't have the carbohydrates. There's all the excuses in the world. But the guys that push through and the girls are the ones that are left with this fantastically full-looking physique and are able to comfortably say that they look like they train. So, if you're dieting and you suddenly start training soft, oh, I'm dieting, I have to take things easy. Your body just sees muscle as this expensive tissue that it's happily going to use before fat. So it's going to use that first. It's highly available. It's not being used. We're not lifting it. There's no adaptations happening there. Cool, I'm just going to use it. I'm just going to burn everything. This is why potentially you've done a cut in the past and you just ended up skinny. Because your body doesn't care what you look like. It doesn't even know. It just, again, wants to survive. And it responds to the demands that you're placing on it. So which means if you're not hard training, well, you're going to lose it. So again, moving into how we track this, scale versus photos. The scale just tells you mass. It tells you how much big of a shit that you have in your guts as well. It doesn't just tell you muscle mass. Photos tell you the composition. You can see the difference here with Liana. Mildly shredded here, absolutely fucking diced here. Really, the shot between these photos, you'd be quite surprised, is probably around 5 to 7 kilos. Again, because she trains exceptionally hard, she kept a lot of her muscle mass and lost the fat. Okay? This is why the photos matter, because it shows you the thing that you actually care about. Yes, scale's important, but we want to look jacked and look like we train. So this comes into the other factor of there's easy fat to burn. So your arms, your delts, and your face. Here you can see all the upper body usually leans out first. The stubborn fat, those fat in those fucking spots. We all know the spots. I don't need to list them off. Love handles is a perfect example. That's where I hold all my fat, also in the back. Goes last. Because some fat cells have release energy receptors and other ones say, whoa, hold up, we're going to hold on to that. Purely just from survival mechanisms, okay? Your body doesn't want to starve to death. It's going to have receptors in its body that make sure that that doesn't happen and has the last reserves possible. It doesn't know that we're trying to look sexy for the beach. It's just going, holy fuck, we're running out of food here. We just need to make sure that we're holding something to it so we don't drop dead. So we've got beta receptors that release the fat, and we've got alpha receptors that keep the fat. Those areas in those fucking spots are the ones that are the alpha receptors, the hold on, which is why they're always the last place to lean out. And also take, I would say, not so much the last place to lean out, but take a couple of goes of dieting before they actually lean out and you can maintain that, tighter sort of waist. Because your body isn't targeting your belly, it's just protecting it longer. You can't just go, okay, I'm going to lose fat from here, and here and target it by training abs and all this other sort of rubbish that you probably read about. It's just a reality of it that your body's going to use this stuff last. It's all about survival. So food choice, we want to be making sure that the best fat loss diet is probably the one that you're eating right now because you can repeat it. Now, if it is complete junk, it's going to be quite hard to maintain that simply because of the density of those calories. Just say you eat a lot of takeaway. Well, that takeaway is not going to go very far when you're dieting and you're going to feel hungry all the time. So this is why we want foods high in protein, fiber, water volume, so it keeps you fuller for longer. A great example is, I've got some, whatever here, I've got some steak, I've got some rice, I've got some corn. That's it's free calories. It's nothing. It's just volume. salad, simple carbohydrates here, bit of sauce. This shit I could eat every single day. And that's what you want to make sure that diet is. You want to be excited for the food that you eat. And in saying that, when you get excited for food, is you want to be making sure that those enzymes in your stomach, you will stay full for longer. If you don't like the food, your body's going to go, I don't really like that, and want something that's, quote unquote bad, like cake or fucking whatever. So the goal here is to be trying to push out to be less hungry as much as possible, so you don't get these triggers in your brain to go, I need to fucking eat crap and all that sort of shit. And it makes the deficit easier. So if you're trying to be hardcore and you're like, I've got to eat clean, I haven't met anyone who says that they eat clean and they've stuck to their diet, simply because it's probably too clean. You're not using sauces, you're not using seasonings, you're not using salt, and you're setting yourself up to just fucking hate dieting and say that it didn't work for you, because that doesn't make you win. No one cares how you get there. They just want to see you win. You're creating a diet that you'll quit. The key is to make something really simple, tasty, and repeatable. I harp on about this all the time because it is true. All the guys on my team who have lost weight, simple, tasty, repeatable. Simple, tasty, repeatable. Is it forever? Absolutely not. But it just depends on how much you want to be putting into this. The guys on my team, they put everything on the hold to get it done, because they really value the way that they look and the way that they feel, to make sure that they get to the goal. So really, towards the end here, we just want to make sure that we're controlling the mechanisms, not letting the scale dictate if you did well or not for the week. You've maintained your deficit, you've hit your protein, you trained hard, you've done your steps, you're sleeping well, you're staying exceptionally consistent. Fat loss is going to be then inevitable, whether it happens 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe it stays the same for a month. Then potentially there's probably some room there to be able to modify things. But just don't chase that tail of the scale. Because like here, the scale might not move today. It might not move even this fucking week. But if all your mechanisms in place, the outcome is already decided. You just need to give it the time. So if you're in this position where you've done a few cuts before and you've always been unhappy with the way that you looked, it's probably because you haven't had a level of accountability in your back corner to keep you on track with these simple steps to make sure that you produce this physique that you want. If that's you, there's a link in the bio to book a call. I'll be absolutely thrilled to have a chat with you and see exactly how we can build out a plan and work together to get you in your best shape ever for whatever goal that is.